my father-in-law got some rope or wire cable, and he asked if we wanted to tie ourselves together. He figured instead of our bodies floating all through the mines, that at least if we stuck together, they'd find us all without having to search us through the mud and coal. We was roughly a half a mile in this mine, a half a mile straight in, and then we went a half a mile to the left. So actually we was a mile deep inside the ground and 250 feet below the surface level. There was probably an hour, hour and a half left on our shift until we was ready to go home, and I heard this big roar. As soon as I heard the noise, my heart actually dropped because I had no clue what it was, and I knew something was seriously wrong. It was a roar that I never heard before, and I jumped out of the scoop and went to my father-in-law and Randy Fogel, which was the boss, and they said, get everybody down to the feeder that we hit water, we have to get out of the mine. I probably had the least experience in the mines. I was roughly 5.5, 6 years in the mines at this time, and a lot of the guys were 20 and 30-year veterans, and at that time, I could see the concern on everybody's face that we was in serious trouble. We knew we had to go roughly a half a mile in 4-foot-high coal seams, so most of us are pretty big men. I'm probably the tallest on the crew, and you basically crawl or duck walk down a half a mile out of this tunnel. It was up to our chins that we actually had our heads up in the air, trying to get your mouth up as high as you could. We're trying to get out as fast as we possibly can, and we got down at one point where the water was roofed out. And at this point, we had to turn around and try to fight our way back through the water. When we knew we wasn't getting out, our boss, Randy Fogel, said, let's start building walls around us that we was going to barricade ourselves in. When you work in underground mining, barricading yourself in a place is the last resort. It's basically, you're building your tomb. When we started building barricades, we knew we had to seal off all these tunnel entries to try to keep the water from coming up any farther on us. We calculated we knew we had anywhere from 6 to 8 hours at this time before the water would reach us. And we started beating on the drill to let them know that we was alive. We actually beat on the steel 9 times to let them know that 9 guys were down here. It was within 15, 30 minutes that you could actually feel, you was starting to feel better already, that you could breathe oxygen. I was thinking about my family and kids, my parents, and the whole time. I asked Randy Fogel for a pen. I knew time was near. I wanted to write to my wife and kids because they're the most important things in my life. And I wanted to tell them that I loved them and that don't worry about me, that everything will be all right. And I wrote to my wife and kids. Every other guy, they wrote to their wife and kids, and we all cried. We knew it was time. We had an hour left, and we all stuck our letters in a plastic bucket and taped it shut so the water wouldn't get in, so they could at least give them to our families. When me and my father-in-law was writing letters and put them in the bucket, we talked to each other and hugged each other, told them that we loved each other. My wife, she was going to lose me plus her dad. She was going to lose the two men in her life, so I knew it was going to be very, very hard. My father-in-law got some rope or wire cable, and he asked if we wanted to tie ourselves together. He figured instead of our bodies floating all through the mines, that at least if we stuck together, they'd find us all without having to search us through the mud and coal. Probably 4 or 5 of us did tie ourselves together. I was one of them. I didn't want my body floating all through the mines. We even put a piece of canvas across that entry because we didn't even want to see the water rising. It just gave you a little barrier. And we waited and waited and waited, and here the water stopped about right where this curtain was. It went an hour, it was still there. It went 8, 10 hours, it was still there. It never rose, it wasn't really dropping. So we sat in this entry pretty much in pitch dark. The water was dropping maybe a foot every 2 hours. It was taking a long time. We wasn't walking out. And the only way that we was getting out, they was gonna have to drill a hole and come down and get us. You didn't know if it was night, day, so we was trying to keep up the best that we could. We sat in this entry pretty much in pitch dark. Most of our batteries were dead. We talked the whole time we was down there. Some guys tried to sleep, and we hugged each other, we cuddled each other, we leaned back to back against each other. Anything we could do to try to keep ourselves as warm as possible. My father-in-law and Hound Dog was actually checking the water level, walking around, when they heard the drill bit break through in behind a wall. So they come up to the section, and Hound Dog said, "Do you guys want to go home?" And I think I replied, "What the hell do you mean you wanted to go home?" He said, "They punched through." That's when I undid my mining belt, dropped it down on the ground, and I left it there because I knew I was never coming back. They sent down a communicator so we could talk to him, a microphone. They're like, "Do you guys all right? Then you need anything?" And there was 3 requests. Chewing snuff was the first request, beer was the second, and food was the third. So they did send snuff down, and food, they didn't send the beer down, though. They called down on the microphone and told us that they was going to send this capsule down, that it had a slide door on the bottom that you had to slide up, and you had to crawl your body into this tube, a cylinder. It got a wire mesh around it, and it had a headset in it so they could talk to you as they raised you up. It felt like an hour to get up, which I think it only took 3 to 5 minutes. You could see the layers of the rock as you're going up, and as you got closer to the top and almost ready to pop out of the hole, you could just hear the people cheering, the roars. And when you did pop out, the lights were everywhere. We had no clue that the world was watching this horror deal. We thought maybe 10, 20, 30 people might be up, and I'm telling you, it was hundreds and hundreds of people up. At that point in time is when I really broke down. I mean, I just started crying. I knew what I went through, and it was just unbelievable. They brought me to the Somerset Hospital, and my wife and kids were there, and it was very emotional, but very good to see them. I survived because somebody else wanted me to survive. Too many things happen for a reason at the right time, I believe. We got oxygen to us in time. We got found Mo in time. The water stopped in time. There's had to be a higher power, I still believe.